Hello, everybody. Welcome to the newest episode of the Theater Enthusiast podcast. I'm so excited to have our next guest here. I told her this in my mind, it's been a long time coming. I have worked with her. She's amazing. She's a friend of mine. Please welcome Amy Spanger. Woo, yeah.
Hello, I'm here.
You're
I'm so
here.
happy to be here.
We're dancing. We're dancing. Imagine like when you did the cabaret with us and I like did like a little dance jazz with you and I was like, I just needed to dance to the wedding singer with you. It was great. As I'm like sitting here just like shimmying right now. I watched,
He's shimmying.
oh yeah, woo. It's like that. I like that gif of what's her name? Betty White when she shimmies from the Golden Girls. If I remember, I will text it to you. She's just like that's because sometimes I'll send a shimmy
Betty
gif to
White,
people.
Betty White was like the most centered, funniest woman ever on earth.
If you have to find, or if I find it, I will send it to you. But there's like videos of when Joan Rivers, and this is on Instagram because I don't have TikTok because I claim I'm in my 30s and I don't need it, and all ends up on Instagram, even though like everybody's on TikTok. But
It's bad. I'm not a social media, like I'm bad at it. I'm just bad at it. Some people are really good at it. I'm bad at it. Like just bad at
like, you post whatever you want to, but like you even said like mine is boring. It's like that's you do great sourdough bread. I don't know. I couldn't do sourdough bread.
it. I'm proud of my bread.
Yeah, and
Very proud.
you post about it. You could do like a whole like live, part series of how to make sourdough bread with Amy Spanger. And you have
I
those
could
like
do a live. Yeah.
deep cut tick tick boom feeling electric people, now known as next to normal, like deep cut, who would watch it? Just saying, like
Were
people.
you aware of feeling electric? Like way
So
back?
my
You were
dear,
very young.
I was, well, you've met her before because she's a part of the reading series, but my dear friend Carrie,
Yeah.
who, yeah, she, not to call her out, but she was like, oh my God, I'm a Banger. Uh, so when she did like, I was like, you need to like namaste, but like internally she was freaking out that she was reading with you. So I totally just like busted her. It's fine. Hey, Carrie. I'll message her after,
Hey,
be like,
girl.
way I called you out on my podcast with Amy Spanger. She'll be fine. But she actually saw it, I think, at like the New York Theater Workshop, like not New York Theater
Nymph.
Workshop, but like the festival
Nymph.
that you guys did. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Nymph. NYMF. Yeah.
yeah. So that was like what, early 2000 something? Like,
Yeah.
let me see.
Oh five maybe? Oh 04?
Yeah. So I think it was probably '05 because I'm going to age myself here, but she and I met in college and we were freshmen like September 2005. So those listening to the math, you know how old I am now. So she
Okay.
saw it and it just
I'm
like
not going to do I'm not going to do the same about myself. What age I was in oh 04, oh 05.
as my grandmother used to say, I'm 21 plus. But yeah, so she saw Feeling Electric with like you and Anthony Rapp and Natalie Ashford, and she like has been obsessed with it ever since. And now
Yeah.
I mean, they just did a revival in London, which I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to try and bring here. But I was thinking about it, I'm like, Amy needs to play Diana in like Next to Normal somewhere. And then I was like, oh yeah, she did Feeling Electric. So just saying, like,
Well, thank you.
if Riley Theater
Yeah.
brings you back for another production
Yeah.
and it
I,
happens to be Next to Normal,
I
there you
ran into Tom Kitt a couple of days ago on the Upper West Side. We live like one block away, so we
go.
literally like run into each other looking like shit on the Upper West Side like all the time. Like, hey, I have no makeup on. Hi. Um, but he had just been to London and saw it, and we were kind of reminiscing about how long it's been kicking around. You know, it's been like over 20 years because before I did Next to Normal, they did a concert version of it. I'm not sure where, but somewhere in New York. Um, I think before like 54 Below and all that, like way, way back with Sherry Renee Scott
Oh,
playing that
wow.
part. And when Tom approached me about like working on it, he sent me the CD,
Yeah. For
back
those
then.
listening, they're circular discs.
Um, and yeah, and then we worked on it. We went to Seattle, like this black box theater outside of Seattle somewhere, and I can't remember where, but and like literally he wrote like many songs like on my voice, and then we did Nymph, and both me and Joe Cassidy won like best actor at Nymph, like for our
Wow.
performance. um, but um, but then I was like doing The Wedding Singer at the same time,
Hmm.
and then you didn't ask me about this, but I'm telling you.
Oh no, this is all a part of the podcast. Like I literally it's
Yeah.
like it's kind of like a very well-known talk show where a certain interviewer asked actors about their entire career, and I used to ask the questionnaire about it. And then I did an interview with someone when the SAG-AFTRA strike just started, and we were like, "Oh, should we have done that?" Because this person is SAG-AFTRA. So I haven't released that episode
Okay.
yet because we asked these questions. So for those
Hmm.
listening, that once the strike is over, that episode with that person will be released. So this is all a part of it, and I also find it fascinating. So, and I'm sure those listening who again are like the deep cut Amy Spanger fans because you do have them.
Yeah, yeah.
This is
But
like,
like when we first started working on it, Diana was 32.
oh, interesting.
And it was supposed to be like a Gilmore Girls kind of thing where she was 32, her daughter was 15, 16, whatever. Um, and and then so yes, so I was working on the wedding singer at the same time, like doing readings and whatnot. And then we got a theater out of town, and I'm sort of like waiting to hear about Next to Normal because I was like, it's gonna definitely go,
Yeah.
and or Feeling Electric at the time, and I was having some issues in my life. I was going through like kind of a divorce, and so I needed something like fun and funny to do
Mhm.
in my life, like something that generated like good vibes, and The Wedding Singer was for sure that. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just go to Seattle, and it was super fun. Fell in love with everybody in the cast. Fell in love with the project, and we came back. We got a theater like immediately, and I started rehearsals like a month after we got back. And when I was in tech, they wanted to do another 29-hour reading, and I was not available. And Alice Ripley, uh, oh, sorry. I want to tell one more part of the story. Before I, um, I was deciding on The Wedding Singer going out of town, and I had a meeting with John Rando and Rob Ashford, and Rob Ashford told me that I was going to roll in on a platform and pull down an accord, and like water's going to come down on me, like a la Flashdance to
Mhm.
end the first act. And I was like, where do I sign? So that was like a contributing factor.
Yeah.
So yeah, flash forward to tech. I can't do it. They asked Alice Ripley to do it, and I remember I was getting my nails done, like getting my toes done, and Tom Kit called me and was like in tears, and he's like, "You have contributed so much to this piece. We wrote so much for you, but we're like moving forward with Alice because we're making the character older." And it's just like, you're too young and you look too young. And like Anthony, it was the
Mhm.
same thing for Anthony.
Yeah.
Anthony ended up working on the show as an associate director, but like he was too young
Mhm.
looking, too young
Yeah.
to do it. So anyway, but it was like one of those, like the one that got away, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my
I remember seeing
feeling.
it at second stage and they had an entire song about her like in a grocery store like shopping. And then when
Yeah,
it came to
Costco.
Broadway, you would know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when it came to Broadway, I was like, oh, they cut that song. So that's what I remember about that. And I mean, I would have went to London because those who have listened know that I'm a big Jamie Parker fan. And he also
Hmm.
came onto the podcast, and I was just like trying to keep it together. And I was like, oh God. And I saw him do a show when I was in London 4 months ago, which saddens me. I'm still not there. And I just like met him very quickly after, and he was so lovely. And I was like, hi, like I was, I'm in London. I just wanted to say hi. Thank you for coming out to the podcast. And he was great. Anyway, so feeling electric. Check. No, we can get
He,
he was the
was he,
original.
so,
So yeah, when I was in London, it was funny because this was like before the summer when I interviewed him, and he said like he has some stuff coming up. And afterwards I was like, what are they? And he's like, I can't tell you. So he did a musical version of The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which was probably like one of the best things I saw in London, and which I could
oh, cool.
totally see in New York, like off Broadway somewhere. And then he played Dan in the Domar warehouse.
Oh,
Yeah. So
cool. Very cool.
yeah. So I was like, oh my God, if I was, yeah, I would want it to come to New York. Casey Levy's amazing, but personally, I would just want that production to come over with that cast just so Jamie Parker can be in New York. Just so I could be like, he's here. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Casey is like such a lovely human too. She's like just so kind and
Yeah.
grounded and amazing.
Yeah. I
And that
I
voice. Wow.
I have not met her. I've seen her do some shows, but the people who I have worked with or have met or whatever, and the subject of Casey Levy has come up, they've always said very nice and kind things to her. So, and
Yeah.
this too, because like the people I've interviewed and people I've worked with, like 99.9% of the people I have interact with have always been very nice and kind. I mean, there are that 1 point percentage of people. um,
Maybe a little.
I'm sorry. Who are
Maybe a few more
Oh, well,
than that.
I want to say, like, at least that I've hidden. I mean, there is this story that I've always told on the podcast where, like, I went up to somebody at a party and I, like, told them how much a show that they were in meant to me. And they were such an asshat to me that it totally pissed me off to them. And then I,
Yeah.
like, was working in a hotel and I was talking to this actor who was in town to audition for, like, School of Rock, the musical. And like we were just talking, and then I like brought up the story. I didn't tell him who it was, but he's like, that's really shitty. Like you have somebody coming up to you telling them that the show that you were in meant so much to them and you're just like a total jerk to them. Like that's not cool. But the point of the story is that I've always been like, and you hear and you've told, like, just be kind to people. Like people remember that and people will want to work with you. And even during that time when we were working together, we were doing so many of those readings. And I was like, I will never ask this person to do a reading with us, even if they're perfect for a role, regardless of whether or not they can do it. I'm so like turned off by them. And like they actually
Yeah.
would have been really good for the money shot, ironically. But I was like, we're not reaching out to this person. Like it's not happening. Like,
Oh, now I'm curious who you're talking about.
if
I
I
can't say.
if you reminded me, there was somebody I interviewed and I told that story, and immediately as soon as the podcast was over, they're like, who was it? So hold on,
Yeah.
maybe I should make a note. Let me make a note. Tell Amy person. I'm on my work desk, so I have post-its. See? Okay,
Oh,
it's right
nice.
there.
Nice.
Anyways,
Yeah, that's my advice to young people. Like,
yeah,
um, be nice, be kind to everyone, even when it doesn't feel like the right thing to do, even when they're being a jerk to you, even when they're like sabotaging like everything around them, like be kind to them because you
yeah.
don't know what's happening in their lives
Mhm.
and you don't know if you're going to run into them again down the road. And, even if they're being mean to you, like be kind. It's really hard, but
Yeah.
try to do it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I personally, I've had experiences like that. My fear was like most recently, I'm off the dating apps right now because I just like they're terrible. And like and I said this, I think one of like the last podcasts. I just want a meet cute at the Met. I just want to like meet a nice guy who's like, my version of normal or feeling electric next to normal. Thank you. See, we tied it in there. And I went on like a
Full
Bumble,
circle.
yeah, like this Bumble video date with some guy for like 2 hours. I'm not, this podcast isn't about my dating life, but if anybody out there knows a good looking single straight guy, let me know. Um, but so like before I could reject him, he sends me a message to reject me. And you would think it would be like, hey, you seem very nice. I just didn't feel a connection. I'm looking for something different. You think that would be it. Like, okay, great. Thanks, you too. He sends another paragraph to explain further why I wasn't a good match for him.
Oh,
And I'm like,
what?
sir, you didn't need to do that. So even in like, and I literally was just like, I'm not even gonna like respond to this. I'm just gonna be like, okay, I didn't feel anything to like have a good one. So the example is like,
Yeah.
even though that happened, I was still very nice and was like, all right, good luck looking what you're looking for. So like even in the dating world, you have to be nice sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's weird. It's hard. So when we do
Yeah. And
hang
the
out at the
other,
park, I'll let you read the message she sent to me because I say
oh,
it's crazy.
why? I'm so glad that I like avoided all of the dating app things.
Yeah.
'Cause, I don't envy you dealing with all of that. I'm
Like it's
sorry.
just, I mean, again, I mean, this podcast isn't about my non-existent love life and like the dating apps and stuff, but like remind me when we see each other in person and we finally do our hangout, like to tell you stories. It just doesn't help when you have like family members who like met their significant other on Hinge and they're like, well, they met their significant other on Hinge. And it's like, yeah, but they were like how old when they met them as opposed to how old I am. And like, it's just, I think it's different in like different age brackets also to meet somebody now too. It's
Yeah.
out there. It's not good. The apps have gotten worse.
You're 35, you said? How old are you?
36, and now we all know my age. Thank you. But again, I feel like a ripe 21-year-old most of the time, but talk to me at like 8 o'clock when I'm like drooling, sleeping. Um,
But 36 is such a good age. It's so good. It's really
I'm
good.
I'm not complaining. I mean,
Yeah, it's really good.
most I get to
And
do.
you have time.
Yeah,
You have plenty of time.
I'm not
I
that lucky.
didn't meet my husband until I was 39.
There you go.
So,
Yeah,
so there you have it.
you never know. It happens when it happens. It's just in the moment, it's frustrating, but then you're just
Yeah, of
like,
course.
good. It's all good. But
Yeah.
or we can just do the share thing like I am a rich man, where she was saying like I love men, they're like dessert, but you don't essentially need them to live.
Right. I love
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. Well, now that we've gone completely off track, where are you from? I always start that
I'm from
where they're
a
from.
small town in Massachusetts called Newbury.
Hmm.
It's on the North Shore, very close to New Hampshire. Very small town, like 10,000 people.
And what got you
Yeah.
interested in performing? My glasses. I think.
Um, I was like always a little ham, and I sang from a very early age. My mom would tell me that I would impersonate people on the radio, and like she said it was really weird. Like I could really like sound like, like a song would come on, and then I would sound like the song, and then another song would come on, and I would sound like, I
Yeah.
could impersonate people on the radio. Like at 3 and 4, it was really like freaking her out. Um, but yeah, I would do like little sock puppet shows and, like entertain the troops. And um, when uh, I think I started performing, I went to like an audition for like a little like local theater when I was 11, I think,
Hmm.
like um, uh, for The Wizard of Oz. And yeah, and then I just started from there. There's like a really cool like a couple of local theaters in my hometown, and I met this woman named Anna Smolowitz who like ended up being my like drama teacher in high school. And um yeah, and like I did it like from the time I was a kid, like not professionally, just like local theater and high school
Mhm.
theater, um, and when I was like getting ready to apply to schools, I didn't realize that you could do it for a living. It just was something like really fun that I was doing with my life, and I didn't know anyone around me who was like a performer. Like no one in my family did it, and um, yeah, and no one close to me did it, so I didn't really like have that in my life. Um, and so I just like went to UMass Amherst, and because like everyone in my family went there, and I was a theater major, and then while I was there, or like the summer after my freshman year, I met this director who was directing a chorus line up in New Hampshire, and he had done it on Broadway. And he was like, "You're like talented enough to like go to New York and make it on Broadway." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh." And he was the first person who said that. And so then I went to New York for the first time. And when I was 19, I had a friend who was going to NYU, and I stayed in her apartment, and I went and saw Grand Hotel and and the World Goes Round, that off Broadway review, and Karen Ziemba was in that, and I was like, I want to do what she's doing. And I came home from that trip, and I told my mom I was gonna move to New York City and be a Broadway star. And she said I had to wait until I was 21. And so for 2 years, I just like waited tables and put as much money aside as I could, which was not much. And then I took a $2,000 loan out of my hometown bank. I met somebody that summer who's going to Columbia with another friend of mine, and she was looking for a roommate, and I moved in with her. And I knew two people in New York, and I was like, I'm gonna get a job waiting tables, and I'm gonna go to open calls, and I'm gonna like make it on Broadway. And I gave myself 3 years to do it, and I did it in 2 years and 10 months. So like just
Amazing.
under the wire.
Yeah. And your first Broadway show was Sunset Boulevard?
Yeah,
Yes. So what
yeah.
was that like? And who was your Norma Desmond?
Betty Buckley.
Mm,
She was incredible,
yeah.
just brilliant. Wow. Yeah, she was like, she could like cry, like, I mean, just at the drop of a hat. Like she could, and she had like tissues like all over her person to kind of like wipe her tears like throughout. It was unbelievable, her performance.
Did you see the newest revival that they did a couple of years ago with Glenn Close? Close?
I,
That's his name.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I couldn't go. I was like out of town for a lot of it. I didn't make it, unfortunately.
Sorry, I just heard there's like noises I'm hearing in my apartment somewhere upstairs,
Oh,
next door. I don't know. That's why I'm looking around like a loon. I actually
New
saw
Year.
Yeah, I saw it and I didn't really like know much about it, but I really enjoyed it. And it was apparently a more stripped down version of the show. There wasn't as much of a set. But
Mm-hmm.
it's when I was working in the hotels and I worked at the DoubleTree Times Square, which was next to the Palace Theater. And so some guests
Mm-hmm.
are like, oh, I left my credit card at a restaurant. I'm supposed to see Sunset Boulevard, but you can take my ticket. It's fine. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, no, just take my ticket and see the show. It's fine. And so, very long story short, I did. And the entire first act, I was like, did I lock this drawer? So at intermission, I just went to the theater, back to the hotel to make sure something was locked. And then I went back to the theater and I enjoyed the rest of it. But yeah, no, it was great. I've never seen it. And what a show to make your Broadway debut in, and with Betty Buckley as Norma Desmond. So
I know.
yeah. And then of course there came Kiss Me Kate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I will say I ran
yeah.
into sorry, go ahead.
No, I, yeah, that was an unbelievable time
Yeah.
in my life.
Oh, we'll get into it. So I ran into a friend of mine at the Broadway flea market. His name is Mark Bonani, Ghost by Ghostlight. I'm just shouting him out because he has like a YouTube channel and he gets in and he like knows his theater stuff. And I just mentioned like, oh yeah, Amy Spanger, because he like was talking about Kiss Me Kate because he was just on a podcast about it. And I don't remember what song he said, but he said your performance, like one of the songs that you performed in Kiss Me Kate, was like is the best version of that song he's ever seen performed. And I really wish
Oh,
that I remember what song he said, but he did say like Amy Spanger's version of that is like the best version I've ever.
well, is it always true to you, darling, in my fashion? Is that
I don't probably because isn't that Bianca? That's Bianca
the
Lois's big
main
number.
song?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So that's probably
it's
it.
probably that.
Yeah.
Well,
I told
that's
the
kind of him.
revival. Yeah. I told him like if you have a question for Amy Spanger, send me a text message. She's like, I will. But just know that somebody has a deep love for you in that show, amongst many other
Yeah.
people. But wait, hold on. I wrote down the order of things. When did Chicago happen? See, again, I made a post-it. Um, was Chicago before or after Kiss Me, Kate?
Before,
Okay.
I did, um, I was, I did the first national tour of Rent right after Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
And while I was doing while I was doing Rent, um, I came in to audition for Chicago for the first time, and and I read like Roxy at that audition. It was like an invited like dance call, but like people were, asked to read stuff.
Mhm.
And so they had me read the Roxy monologue, and like Walter Balby was there and Anne Ranking was there, and I had done like some master classes with Anne Ranking, and she was always like kind of singling me out in the classes, um and I did a reading for her of Applause Applause.
Mhm.
They were trying to revive that, I think, like for a while, like way, way back. And so I kind of like knew her. And so anyway, I went back to Rent and I booked the standby for Roxy and Velma, which they had like back then, for 6 weeks. Somebody was doing a play. And so I came in and stood by, and during that time they had like all the understudies go on, and I like never went on, but I had like a pager. It was like 1998, so I had like a pager, so it's just like
For
hanging out in
those
New
who
York
are
with a pager.
listening, like a CD, if you have ever watched Friends, which I'm sure the young people have now,
A
pager.
pager.
Yeah, my that just like brings me back. My dad used to have a pager where you would have to like call like a messaging service and
Mhm.
they would send him a message. And
Yeah,
so he would tell my sister and I, like, you can't say just call me because I'll think it's an emergency. So we would always say call us when you can, aka like call your children because we want to talk to you. Like not in a bad way, but wow, that brings me back.
yeah,
Memories.
yeah. But I never got the call like in six
Wow.
weeks. But during that time, I had been working on Fosse, like I was asked to like do so when I was really young, I would take Chet Walker's dance class, and he reached out to me one day and was like, "Will you come and take the special class with people?" And so I went, and on the first day, like Gwen Burden was teaching us like the
Wow.
frug walk, and we were all like, "Holy shit!" And so for like 2.5 years, I like was in these classes, just like, and you would get the call or not, like every week to come back, and I would always get the call, but like some people didn't. And it was like very dramatic.
Hmm.
And but I would call like bells were ringing my
Yeah.
my answering service, like and get the call or not. And so I had been working on that for a long time, and like BB Newirth had come through and like, taught something at one point, and Anne Ranking had taught something. And like, so I had been vetted,
Hmm.
up, in terms of like dancing with like the Fosse people, the Chicago people. So so when I got to Chicago to stand by for 6 weeks, um, you know, BB was there and she was like, took a shine to me right away and was like, I love you. And like people were like, oh, BB likes Amy, you know. And so I'd been like properly vetted to like, and Marianne Lamb was leaving the show and they just asked me to replace Marianne Lamb. So I like went into that slot. June, he ran to my knife. He ran to my knife 10 times, that
Mhm.
monologue. And still understudy both Roxy and Velma. And then like 9 months after that, I would do like understudy rehearsal and like Barry Weissler, the producer, would like come and watch like understudy rehearsal. So he like came to a couple and watched me like do Roxy. And then they asked me to do the tour. So I went out and replaced Charlotte D'Amboise on the tour for like 3 months. And that was it for a while. And then when I like 5 years later, because I was like 26 when I played it for the first time, and then when I was 31, they asked me to come back and do it again on Broadway.
Yeah. I want to talk about what I was like working with Gwen Verdon because you don't hear, or at least I haven't had the experience of people like, oh yeah, I just like did these dance classes with like Gwen Verdon. Like,
Yeah,
let's talk about that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, she she's been kind of like a guiding force, I feel, in my life and career. Gwen Verdon, I don't know. Um, yeah, she's just one of the greatest musical theater performers, dancers, um, ever, ever, ever. Yeah, she would do like the warm up with us, you know, like in the back, and like would be sweating, and like we were all like, oh my God. But any tiny detail, you know, like any gesture was so like the nuance and the detail of it was like like a painting, you know. It's just like
Yeah.
like the greatest song you've ever heard in your life, you know. You like a tear would come to your eye just
Yeah.
watching her move. um yeah, it was really a special time in my life. And I so like I would have done that show, I think, on Broadway, Fosse, but I booked Rent. And so I went and did Rent. And then while I was doing Rent, they had auditions for the tour and I booked the tour. And then at the same time I was auditioning for Kiss Me Kate and I booked Kiss Me Kate. I was gonna do the tour, but the tour of Fosse, and then I booked Kiss Me Kate and I was like, well, I'm gonna do Kiss Me Kate.
Yeah. And here we are now at Kiss Me Kate. What was that experience like? Oh, sorry. And you were,
No, I was gonna
go
say,
ahead.
I went in the first time and I did great, and but they gave to a TV star, and I can't think of her name right now, but I didn't get it at first. I didn't
Oh,
get
wow.
that part. And then the show that she had filmed got picked up, so she couldn't do it. So they had me come back in. And in the meantime, I like got a coach, an acting coach, and you know, like got myself like totally like prepared. So I was like, I'm gonna get it. And I went in and I got it. And yeah, I mean that entire experience was it was like back in a time on Broadway when producers were paying people really well. They were spending money on sets. They were spending money on costumes. It was like Boomtown, you know. It's just like everything looked beautiful and luxurious, and people were being paid really well. And you know, it feels like it's a very different thing now. Like the wealth is not being shared as much, you know, between like producers and the creatives, like in any aspect of either theater or the other thing that we can't talk about right now.
Well, I mean, there's a SAG after strike going on because of it. And,
Yeah.
I mentioned to you before we can touch upon it. I mean, I even had, for those who do listen to the podcast, know I had an entire episode dedicated just to what the SAG after strike is because I wasn't sure about it. My friend Austin is very active in that, so I asked her to come on and talk about it. Um, so yeah, it's a thing, and it's a problem for a lot of people and getting paid. And it's also like people are saying like, Elon Musk has billions and billions of dollars. If he gave everybody in the world $1 billion each, he would still have over billions of dollars. So the funniest thing, I went to see The Shark is Broken on Broadway, and I was sitting next to this gentleman. And sometimes, like, I see shows by myself all the time. And, depending, sometimes you strike up a conversation with somebody. And it turns out he's an entertainment lawyer for one of the big studios. And then we started to kind of like get into a little bit, and he was like pro studio. And I was like, and I mentioned the AI thing, and he's like, well, and then the show was about to start. And then I said, we probably shouldn't get into it. And like the show started. And then after,
Oh,
yeah. And then after the show, I was like, enjoy the rest of your trip in New York. And then I left. So yeah,
yeah.
but he's like pro
Well,
studio. Yeah.
it's simply it's very simple. We're asking for like a tiny, tiny, tiny little percentage of what they're all making on
Yeah.
residuals.
Hmm.
Like and to be paid like a little bit better in general, like the writers, the actors, everything. And to have the protection from AI
Yeah. Which is
because,
like, it's
you
so
know,
crazy to me because the guy said with the AI, he's like, oh, well, they would have to sign a contract to make sure it's okay. Like, it's like the whole John Proctor thing in the Crucible, like, it's my name, like you don't want your image out there without you getting credit or paid for it for a certain amount. Like, you
yeah.
can't just like steal my image without giving me credit or paying me. Well, I
Well,
don't know
like
if
a
they're kind of paying,
commercial
but
in another country was made of Tom Hanks that
mhm,
like he knows nothing about.
interesting.
And he's not being paid. He wasn't paid for it. It's just like, it's awful.
Yeah.
And background actors, basically, they want to just like,
Yeah.
just use like images of background actors and not have to pay for
Yeah.
background actors.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like a really scary moment.
Yeah.
And then like have chat GP like write on scripts too, which is like not, are you gonna write um uh didn't you see The Bear, that show?
So yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
so good.
Jamie Lee
So good.
Curtis is just gonna she's going for an EGOT at this point because her
Oh,
performance, yeah,
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 incredible. But like who, like you think a computer can write a script like that?
no,
No.
yeah. Well, luckily, like the
Oh,
writer's strike is over. Sorry, I interrupted you. Please
no,
continue.
no, no, no.
Yeah,
No, I'm just saying, but like going back to like the time, in 1999 when I did Kiss Me Kate, where it was a different time, where like producers, you actually had like a relationship with Broadway producers, I mean, not some Broadway producers are amazing, but like, sharing the wealth, like wanting to share the wealth because ticket prices are insane now. And like, who's
yeah.
making the money?
I don't know if we've ever had that discussion during like any of our rehearsals, but I know that like I've talked to other performers about it during the pandemic, and I said I'm very curious to know what theater pricing is going to be once Broadway comes back. And I even remember hanging out with my friend yesterday, and we were talking about, I don't want to call out the theater company, but there's a theater company that used to do, or they do tickets. Like, if you're this age, you can get like, let's say like $40 tickets if you're under this age. But because Broadway was closed for 18 months, those people who aged out of it like missed the opportunity to see these shows because they aged out of it. I'm like, you think they would have been like, all right, if you were born on this year, you have up until like 2023 to use this program, but they didn't do that. And so I aged out of it.
Yeah, it really was an opportunity to make like uh, changes,
Mhm.
for the better, like
Yeah,
during pandemic. It was really an opportunity, and I don't think a lot of people like, did
yeah,
it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it should be available to more people. Like tickets to Broadway should be
Yeah.
available. They should like offer them to like all the high schools in New York City, like a free ticket.
Yeah. I think it's pretends. That's not what I meant to say. Depends on the production and all that stuff. I mean, like I'm a member of TDF, and TDF pricing has even gone up in price over the years, where it's like the cheapest ticket is like 49, $52. Like I looked yesterday at a show and it was like with fees like $59. I'm like, that's not the point. Like I want to see these shows, but I don't want to have to spend like 60 bucks a pop to sit like anywhere. And like TDF is great. Like I've had some really great seats with them. Like I've seen some great stuff, but like current, you know, financial world right now, like I don't want to spend $60 to see a show when
Yeah,
I rather have dinner, you know? So
right. Or buy a top
yeah.
or buy a nice shirt.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was really tempted to wear my wedding singer t-shirt, but I opted not to. I still have it,
Oh,
the wedding singer. I even saw the wedding singer concert that you guys did at 54 Below. And it was like one of
oh,
the
really
greatest
good
of my
concert.
life. Oh my God, it was so actually met Matthew Sklar at the opening night of Something Rotten. And he was so lovely. And I said, "Oh, I saw the wedding singer concert." He's like, "How was it?" And this was my little I just like looked up at the sky. I was like, it was one of the best nights of my life.
You
Yeah.
were there?
The reunion concert?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to, I think you guys did two shows. I was at the second one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I have like
It was,
photos on my phone from it too. Well, I mean, I think I told you about like my love of The Wedding Singer. I saw it so many times. I would always be like one of the first people in line. And then I used to be friends with this guy, which we can talk about off podcast. Um, But yeah, I remember there was one time where I went to the box office and I said, "Can I get rush tickets for both shows on like a Saturday?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's fine." And then I went to do it like however many days later and I got in trouble by the box office. Like you can't do rush tickets for both shows in the same day. And it's like I came to the box office the other day and they said it was fine. And he's like, "Well, I'll do it this time, but I can't let you do it again." He was such a jerk about it. But whatever, it's fine. We always sat like front row, like right on the aisle seat. I think I have a towel that Kevin Cahoon threw at me. Yeah, it was a great show. But I
oh, that
I
group
know
wasn't.
I also noticed too, because there's some like Broadway Instagrams that will repost videos, and you posted of an out of town song that they cut from the show, or like a part of it with, or the song Pop, or like Pop the Question that
Yeah.
you do, how
Yeah.
there was like an entire dance number that you did in the bathroom that was cut.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Aside from
Yeah.
that, yeah, and Laura Benanti's wig, what else got changed?
Um,
Because I just know, like, it's so funny too. I'm just like sitting here smelling my perfume. I don't know why I just did that, but I have a bottle of perfume on my desk and I was just like, let me smell it. Because in the posters, she has brown hair, and in the Broadway production, she had the blonde, and it's been so many years, so that I know has changed. But let's backtrack because I'm jumping all over the place. But how did the wedding
oh,
singer
yeah.
come to you? Because I know you said that you were feeling electric slash next to normal was kind of happening at the same time, and then you were also doing the wedding singer workshop. And I know we jumped around, and I know a lot of people who are fans of yours want to hear about Tick Tick Boom, but we'll get to it because we're in wedding singer mode right now. But how did that
Okay.
come into your life?
Wedding Singer was an audition for uh like a 29-hour reading,
Mm.
basically, at Bernie Telsey. And
Just tell people who are listening what a 29-hour reading is, just in case they don't know what it is.
29-hour reading is like basically like a 6-day long reading where you You go and you have like a binder, or now you might have like your tablet, and you stand at like music stands, and there might be like a little bit of movement, but it's basically just like you're gonna read the script and sing the songs. And sometimes there's not a lot of songs to sing, there might be like a couple. But it's kind of like just to get for the creatives to hear it all and like, work on it. So you might get like new pages of script like every day, and like new jokes, and a new song. But it's like basically just so that the creatives can hear it and work on it and make it better.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got a 29-hour reading. And it was like me, Felicia Finley, um, the first 29-hour reading. Carrie Butler was playing uh, the lead, and I think everyone else was like the people, basically. Like, but Carrie Butler did the first reading, and she was great, but like not right, not
Yeah.
exactly right. Um, and uh yeah, so we did like a bunch of readings of it. um it was really funny right away, like immediately. I remember coming up with a really good joke during the reading, because we had like those binders. So, and it was like the 80s, and at one point I had to make a phone call on like one of those like really big like cellular telephones like from the 80s. So I took my binder and I put it up to my ear, and I thought that was really funny. Um,
We did acting at Second City, so you
oh
got
wow.
got right in there.
How do you know my life?
I research people.
How do you know that? Oh, it's on my
I also
resume.
have, I also, yeah, I was about to say, I also have your resume up just because, like, even though I do research people, I'm always worried I'm gonna forget like everything that they did. So I showed you my post-it, like I always show the people, I'm like, look, I did research, and I like hold up my notepad of like everything. And I tell this to everybody. My favorite is like I was interviewing Andrew Kober, and he was like, you know a lot of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I researched you. Like, I'm not gonna have somebody come on even if I know them personally. Like
Yeah.
people come on, they research. It's like the same thing. If you're going in for a job interview, you have to research the company that you're interviewing with. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I
Of
appreciate it.
course.
But my audition for the Wedding Singer was a really good one. We were asked to prepare like an 80s pop song.
Mhm.
So I prepared Like a Virgin.
Perfect.
And
Kind of perfect for the look that
uh,
Holly went for in the musical.
yeah. And by the way, Alex Lacamoire played for me.
Oh, wow.
Alex Lacamoire, he's like the MD of Hamilton, and Next to Normal. And Um, but he was like not as fancy back then, and I hired him to like play the audition for me because it was like a very specific, thing
Yeah.
I wanted, and so he was in the room with me,
Where
and
he was in the room where it happened. Thank you. Thank you.
hey, hey,
What?
but at one point I gave myself a little bit of choreo, like not too much, but at one point I got down on the floor and I was like crawling around like a tiger, and then I was rolling around like I was on fire, like stop, drop, and roll, like kind of. And then I did like a backup thing, and then I was like did like a make out thing. I mean, you can't see
I
because
mean, I can, and I'm very much enjoying you showing me what you were doing.
it was it was really good. It was
Yeah.
really good. And then that night I did a concert. I did like a Carole King concert that night, like way before Beautiful happened. It was some sort of benefit concert, and John Rando was at the concert, and I had gotten the call that I got the reading like immediately after I left, and And he was like, "Your audition was just incredible today." So it
Yeah.
was all really good. But yeah, it was the first time I met Matt Scalar and Chad Begelin was like
Yeah.
at that audition that day,
Yeah.
and I love them.
Yeah. And then the rest is 80s history. The wedding. I
Yeah,
will say, like, I was like, oh, that's who Imelda Marcos is. And now they're doing Here Lies Love. And I just like, oh, I know because of the wedding singer. And I remember I was like so obsessed with it, like when it was on. Um, and like I took my mom and my younger sister that summer to see the show. And my mom laughed at the joke with like all of the credit cards at the end when oh my God. Sammy's character says to you, like, hey, baby, I have all these credit cards. And he like whips out his wallet. And my mom was laughing. And I was like, I don't get it. And then she explained it to me. I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, it was really funny. Yeah.
oh, no, that was like a show of just misfit, like funny people.
Yeah.
God,
I
like
mean,
every single person, every ensemble member was like a genius. Like every single human was like
and a lot of
brilliant.
them have gone on to like do like you have a what's this? Oh my God, why can't I think of his name? David Yosberg, isn't it? You had
David Josephsberg.
yes, Joseph Berg, and then Andy Carl was in the show for a little bit. Yeah, and then you
Yeah,
had
he came in and David had like an injury, I think, and Andy came in for like a month
yeah,
and did that
and then Matt
his
Salvador
part.
took over for Christian Brawl in Peter and the Starcatcher, and he was actually my Black Stash when I saw Peter and the Starcatcher, so it was pretty cool. And then you have like Kevin Cahoon, who's now like a Tony-nominated
I
Broadway
know.
actor and
Fuck.
Chuck, and
Yeah,
he's incredible. It's always
I
exciting when
know.
you see people that you're fans of do like really like go on to do really cool and big things. And yeah, I really loved The Wedding Singer. And you even had Stephen Lynch playing the lead, and now I can't think of the lead's name right now.
Robbie.
Thank you. Oh my God. Wow. Total brain fart. Well, because when you're younger and you're a certain age, you like always stage door, and he like remembered me. And then people would just like always introduce him to me or like me to him. And at one point he's like, why do people keep introducing you to me? And it's like, I don't know why they do that. But yeah. And then Constantine Morales came in for a bit, and he played Robbie in the concert, I remember. And you guys also played videos of the actors who couldn't make it that for the performances. Oh man, what a great night. If you're a Wedding Singer fan like I was, it was just so great. It was so great. I
Yeah.
loved it. But
They
let's
played that. They re-aired that concert during pandemic.
oh really?
Did you see that?
No.
Yeah.
I was there live. So I think
Right.
yeah, it was great. And then
But you know, it was like it was really fun to do, but like seeing it again was like it was great. It was a great concert.
I also saw my friend and I went to the Drowsy Chaperone concert, and we actually forgot we had tickets to it. And it was just like even Beth Level at like 54 Below got like a standing ovation after doing Stumble Along. So I mean, you know, it's amazing. But let's go back in time now because we've time jumped a bit. Let's talk about everyone's favorite Tick Tick Boom. How did that come into your life?
I was in Kiss Me Kate
Mhm.
and I had been in um to David Capriolis as the casting director in New York City for Manhattan Theater Club.
Mhm.
And I'd been in for like a couple of plays for him and he was like a fan and they were having a reading of Tick Tick Boom. And Anthony Rapp was doing it and oh, my brain is farting right now. Darn it.
My brain farted a couple of times already, so we're same page. I get it.
Um, yeah, I can't think of the actor who played Michael, but it'll come to me. And yeah, and they asked me to come in and read, just read the script. not sing anything. So we just had like a reading in the script of Tick Tick Boom. And I think maybe Anthony sang like one song or two songs in my memory. Anyway, but and when I did the first national tour of Rent, um I did that like 6 months after Jonathan Larson passed away, and we did it with the entire creative team, and who were all like bawling during rehearsals, and like we were all like bonded for life. And I met like his friends, like his best friends, Victoria Leacock, who uh, eventually was like a producer on Tick Tick Boom, and Matt Grady, who the character of Michael and the character of Angel are both like amalgamations of Matt Grady. And um and his parents, especially his dad, like, I got close to his dad, Al. Um and so I was like in the family, you know what I mean? I was like in with like all of those people. And so when this came up, and I did it, they were all there. And then and that went really well. And I got like a coach for that too, because I had to play like all of the characters, because in the play, Susan and others, the female, the one woman plays like every woman in Jonathan's life. So like in the film version, that was totally brilliant, but like, there were I think seven
Mhm.
people who played like all the parts. Um, so, so I had to like figure out like these characters for like his mother, his agent, this actress, the market research person, Um, and so, and his girlfriend. Um, and so that went really well. And then they had an audition, and I went in to sing, and I sang Call Me from Blondie,
Mhm.
Blondie's Call Me. And because they said the music was kind of a little bit like punk rock, a little bit, so I was like Blondie. And then I sang the theme from the Valley of the Dolls, and which like Liz Kaplan, that voice teacher, and she's a brilliant voice teacher, and I like figured out would be great for Tick Tick Boom. And Stephen Remus, who's the MD of Tick Tick Boom, like freaked out in the room. He's like, I can't believe you're singing the theme to the Valley of the Dolls.
Mhm.
He had like a very special connection to that
I feel
film,
like that's
and
like the most like niche theater thing that one can do is sing the theme song to Valley of the Dolls.
I had that in my book for a while. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Maybe like during
Yeah.
the next cabaret, you should pull that out and be like, guys, I haven't sung this in a while, but here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I ended up, getting it. And then I think like I did Kiss Me Kate for a year and a half. I had one day off, and then I started rehearsals for Tick Tick Boom. And yeah, it was a very intimate, piece, because it's only three people, and director and choreographer. Scott Schwartz directed it, and Chris Catelli choreographed it. And Ron Sparza and Jerry Dixon were in it with me. And yeah, we just started working on the music, um, and it was just like really special. I remember we did like a reading of the first act for like, friends and family, and Stephen Schwartz came, Scott Schwartz's father.
Yeah.
Stephen Schwartz, who wrote Wicked and many other wonderful musicals, came, and we had been toying around with like what we're gonna sing, and I got a cassette tape of Marin Maisie doing a demo of "Come to Your Senses,"
Wow.
because Marin and Marin and John grew up in the same hometown, and they were like really close friends. And it's Marin Maisie's birthday today, and she's
Oh,
gone for 5 years,
oh,
and I miss her.
yeah.
She's my friend.
Kind
But
of kismet
anyway,
that
she
we're talking about stuff that you did with her today then.
say
Like
it again.
I was saying it's kind of kismet that we're talking about things that you worked on with her today then.
I know, I know. Yeah, she was very connected with Tick Tick Boom, and I just done Kiss Me Kate with her, and
Huh.
um,
And the
she was
revival they
so
did, sorry, go ahead.
no, she was just incredible with me. Like she was 10 years older than me, and she'd kind of like, you know, been there, done that a little bit, with like starring on Broadway and, the Tony Awards and like all that stuff. Like she was kind of like, whatever you need, like come to my dressing room, talk to me. Like my door's always open for you. But we were friends and like we would hang out and,
Yeah,
drink. And she was awesome.
yeah.
Just an incredible woman. I miss her a lot.
Yeah. I was going to say in the revival they did of Kiss Me Kate at Studio 54, they actually had her old dress from Kiss Me Kate like make a cameo in the show.
Yeah. 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 I saw it. Yeah. Incredible. Yeah, she was like a force of nature and I miss her a lot. I really miss her. But so I got, yeah, like at the time I got a demo of her doing Come to Your Senses. And I remember working on it and Stephen Aremus was like, I think you should sing it like Marin, and Marin was kind of like mixing it more, like the end of it, like not, it was written in a lower key, so it was down like a half step, and the end was not like this big like belty moment, and I sort of had to like sit him down. I was like, I'm not gonna like, I feel like it's different, like I love her rendition of it, but I feel like I have a different approach. And we were kind of like, we were working on it, but we hadn't quite like figured it out yet. And when we did that reading of the first act, like I belted the end of
Mhm.
it, like the big long like note at the end. And it was like it got like a standing ovation. It got like it stopped, the show a little bit. And so yeah. So anyway, that happened. But yeah, it was. I think what I'm getting to is the um, experience was kind of like that lightning in a bottle, like experience where it's happening and you're like it's all going really well and everyone's like at the top of their game, and we're telling a really important story and honoring Jonathan and honoring his family, um, and creating something that was originally meant to be uh, was like a rock monologue that Jonathan did himself. He performed to that second stage, and it was about, the piece is about him creating a show called Superbia that was like not received well, and it was kind of like the predecessor to Rent, and what's really sad is he um, didn't get to experience, he wasn't alive to experience his success. All of his success happened like after his death, unfortunately.
Yeah. I was going to ask something. I totally forgot what it was. Well, now I remember. It's also not every day you have an off-Broadway show perform on the Today Show.
Yeah.
So, like, that's also kind of like a big deal. Like you
And
had,
we did that like before we opened. Like we
oh wow.
did that. I mean, we had just learned all of that and we were like, oh, okay. Haha. So, yeah.
And that's not an easy song to do either. What is it, the therapy song? I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, yeah. Therapy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's not an easy song either. But yeah, again,
Yeah,
not every
therapy and louder than words on the Today Show. Yeah.
Just remember like the first cabaret the reading series did. It was like when a certain thing came out on Tick Tick Boom, how the song um like the like the producer of one of the producers of the reading series was like so adamant that like they did the song. I was like, that's fine, do whatever you want. You can close out the cabaret with that song. So for like a month, that song was just stuck in my head, louder than words. And every time I
Oh
like
yeah.
I heard it, I was like, oh, our first cabaret that we did. But anyway, I just like I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of people have such I don't know if you know the impact that that show and like that you've had on people. Does that like ever like affect you? Do you feel a certain way about it, or do you just like not know when people are like, "Oh my God, Amy Spanger, I'm geeking out, I'm working with her, or like I just met her, I saw her."
Yeah, I know people who are your age, people who are like in their like mid 30s, like
Thank you for
like
saying
really.
mid. I say mid to late, but I'm
Yeah,
with
you're
mid. Thank
mid.
you.
You're mid.
I got a
You're
few
gonna
more.
stay mid for a while.
Yeah, I'm 37 in a few months. It's fine. I'm like, it's so funny. I'm like 40 is right there. I'm like, I have an older sister who's going to be 40 well before I am, so I need to calm down. So it's
Yeah,
fine.
totally calm down and
Yeah,
stay in your mid 30s for a while.
yeah,
Um, yeah, no, I am aware that that had like a huge impact on people, and it really means a lot to me. Like it means a lot that I had that kind of an impact on people was something that I did creatively, you
yeah,
know. Um, yeah, I mean, Jonathan has been kind of like this guiding force in my life, you know, and I never got to meet him, you know. It's kind of sad, but yeah, he like my first big break was, you know, getting Maureen in the first national tour of Rent, and then yeah, I mean, it was very competitive, like to get Tick Tick Boom, and I just feel like it was meant to be, you know, like they all loved me and like his family and
yeah,
his, you know, and I feel like that helped a lot, you know.
yeah,
um, but yeah, it means a lot to me. It means the world to me that I've had an impact on so many people.
yeah. Well, we're going to jump around
It's
a little bit.
humbling. It's humbling, like super
Yeah,
humbling for you to
yeah,
say that and for me to respond to it. It's just
yeah.
like I kind of can't believe that actually happened. But yeah.
Yeah, it's like not calling out Carrie, which I totally did, but like she's one of them. Sorry, Carrie, but it's fine. So you know her, you love her, it's all great. I messaged her, I'm like, you know that like Amy Spanger now follows you on Instagram. She's like, I know. So yeah, it's okay. She'll be like, she's fine. She won't care. So I'm gonna jump around a little bit. How did sticking with the 80s, how did Rock of Ages come into your life?
Um, Rock of Ages was like an audition.
Mm,
Yeah, and I had the idea before I went, like very late, and I was like, oh no, I don't know if this can actually happen, but I had the idea that I would go to like Brookstone and buy
mhm,
like a really small fan,
mhm,
and I would bring the fan in because it was like a very big packet of like material. So I
mhm,
kind of had like all these papers with me. So I'd kind of like bring the fan in hidden by the papers and like meet everybody and then, you know, turn it on like when the music started and then have like my own personal wind machine
mhm.
happen. That went over really, really well.
I don't know if you're being
That
sarcastic or not.
No, it got me the job. They were all
Yeah.
like, "What?" They were
I'm
freaking
like,
out.
I'm
Like,
sitting here, I'm like, that's brilliant. And you're like going over well, I'm like, did it? Did the papers fly everywhere? So yeah, look at you, like wedding singer, just water splashing on you, and then 80s hair in your audition for Rock of Ages, which is amazing. I also have like great lighting. The sun is coming into my
ooh,
apartment. Look, ooh, hey.
oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Thank you for like the 2 seconds. How long? So you also performed at the Tonys, or was that, I can't remember. You did.
Yeah.
How was that
Yeah,
experience?
with
You
Rocket Agents.
Yeah, and it was like your second time working with Constantine because he, again, bringing back the 80s, did Wedding Singer for a little bit and then Rocket
Right.
Babies. So what was that reunion like?
Great. It was great. Um, yeah. Yeah, he did the off-Broadway production of Rock of Ages, so he was kind of like, a fixture over there, and I was like a newbie because they got rid of somebody or replaced them with me. um, so it was a little bit like a teeny bit awkward where people were kind of like, "What's happening?" Like she was our friend and the person that I took over for. So it was a little bit like took a minute for people to um, adjust.
Yeah.
And I had very little time to learn the show because I was one of three people that they brought in, or four people. So everybody else came in from like the off Broadway, and then they had three people come in. Me, James Carpinello, and a couple of the other people came in, and we had very little time to learn the show before we were in tech. So it was a little bit of like a harried process,
Mhm.
but super fun, really funny. Like the script was
Yeah.
so funny. Um, Chris Dorenzo's script was really, really funny. And it was kind of like making fun of Broadway in like a kind-hearted way, And I got it with like my whole being. And like I was like an 80s kid. So like when I was 11, MTV like came
Yeah.
on the scene and I wanted to live in my TV. Like I wanted to be like in music videos. And so I just got it with like my whole
Yeah.
soul, like the comedy of
Yeah.
that piece. So yeah, it was really fun. And like singing rock was super, super fun.
Yeah. I saw it years later when they changed to the Helen Hayes Theater, and I just remember going and wearing like a Madonna t-shirt I got from Old Navy, and I ended up getting like food and or like alcohol poisoning like the next day because my friends and I did like jello shots at the theater and we did tube shots and then we like went out
Yeah.
before and then after. So it was like it was a raucous night, but I had the most fun at that show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super fun. Yeah, people would come and do like stage door after and they would be so drunk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they would be like, I was Sherry in high school. I was totally Sherry. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good for you.
What's that like? No, I remember I saw Spring Awakening and we were sitting on stage and like there was a drunk member in the audience where they kept like moaning and they had to escort them out. So that was always that was fun. What a show to be drunk
Um,
at. Spring Awakening. Rock of Ages, perfect. Spring Awakening, I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I went to the closing night show where they had like the original, like some of the original people come back and like sing
Mhm.
Don't Stop Believing like at the end. So but we got like overserved like jello shots. Like we were feeling no pain by the time we got up on stage.
I think
It
I
was
also
fun.
like the first and only time I ever had Jello shots was actually at Rock of Ages.
Yeah,
Yeah. Didn't wasn't there
same,
during
same.
yeah. Wasn't there, didn't you do like a Rock of Ages like reunion or something like that, like during the pandemic? I think wasn't there like a something with like a bunch of Sherrys, or am I just like making something up in my head?
That was that was the closing night
Oh,
of the show. Yeah.
oh, okay.
I don't
Trying to remember.
maybe not with me during pandemic. I don't. Oh yeah, no, we did a concert. Sorry. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
No, because I feel like we talked about it and like something in my head there it was I don't know. I'm like visioning like dark and lights and steam.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did a show. We did a show. It was like during the pandemic, like proper, and we were all like masking, and then we did it at a rock club downtown. I can't think of the name right now, but um, so we were all like in masks, like sort of like learning our parts and whatever, and then we would unmask and perform, and then put our masks back on. But we were all like, we're gonna get sick, like we're all gonna get sick.
Yeah.
But it was really fun, like seeing everybody and singing with everybody again. It was great.
And then I think weren't you reunited with some of the wedding singer team for Elf, right? Max.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's
how
Ted
was that?
Bagland.
I will say, like, I am a very late bloomer to the thing that the musical is based off of. Um, if if we go not to like I
You
don't want to
are?
like scab. Yeah, I'm a late bloomer to the thing that it was based off of. But how did Elf the musical come into your life and another OG creation that has now been played almost every holiday season?
I know, I know. Um, well, I did the wedding singer, and then um I did a show with Casey Nicola
Mhm.
um in San Diego called Robin and the Seven Hoods, that I actually met my husband on that show. And we've been married for 12 years now.
Yay.
Um During that, I done a reading of it. I did a reading of it with Jesse Tyler Ferguson
Oh, wow.
playing the lead, and like they were like, it was great.
Yeah.
And we were like, yay, let's do it. Let's totally do the show. And then he got um the TV show that he did for 10 years. Like at that time. We were like, okay. So
I will say, like, I'm so happy that he has a Tony now because he's such a theater kid.
yeah.
And and he was so great in Take Me Out. I saw it when the revival, when it was like, was it Helen Hayes? And then I saw the Take Me Out 2.0. So, yeah. I went because a
Yeah.
particular actor was in the show who I eventually had on my podcast, but I went because they were in it. I was like, I also was like, I need to see the show again, and this person replaced, and I'm a fan of theirs, so I do want to see them in the show. And I do have a
Yeah.
scar in my,
I didn't see this one. I saw the original one, Take
oh,
Me Out,
wow.
like 20 years ago or whatever. Yeah.
Oh,
Um, yeah. So, sorry, you were asking me how
yeah, sorry.
Elf happened.
Yeah, you saying that Jesse Tyler Ferguson did it, and then he got that TV show that he was on for many years, and you wanted
Yeah.
to
And then we
like,
did
do
we
it
did
again.
like readings with other people in that part, and then I did that show in San Diego, um and then we did it like right when we got back from that, like we went into rehearsals for it.
Yeah.
Um with Sebastian Arcellus as the
Wasn't
lead.
it at the Hirschfeld? You guys,
Yeah,
how was it? What was it like being back there after doing the wedding singer there?
it was great. I was in the same dressing room like
That's
all
great.
3 times.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and yeah,
Like have Amy Spanger was here written somewhere. Like you like
yeah.
hide underneath the
Should
desk.
have.
You
I
know,
know. I never did that. I never did that.
well, none of my family really listens to my podcast, but which is fine. But my dad just moved, so I was trying to figure out where I can put my like name and or initials somewhere in the house and like put the years that were there. So I literally just like climbed into like underneath the sink and I just like put my initials there. So yeah. I think next dressing room you have, just like sneak in somewhere, just put your initials and the date
Yeah,
and times you were there.
I did at Matilda. I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Matilda. I fucking love Matilda. And that song, When I Grow Up, always makes me cry.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
Even like if I like sing it now, my I'll just tears. It's so good. It,
Yeah, it's funny. That show, yeah, they wanted me to go in for it, and I said no, because I don't know. I just like I didn't. I've done that kind of part like a lot in my career, and I was like, you know. And I hadn't seen the show though, so they had a round of like auditions, and then they didn't find her, Mrs. Wormwood. And so then I saw it and I was like, oh, well, I have to see it. I have to like be a part of it now. And so yeah, and then I got it, and um I but I had like a really hard time with the idea of being like a bully and being mean to Matilda. So I kind of like made it that in order for Matilda to get to a better, life for herself, like she has to be abused by my character.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, but I had never played anything like that. I had never played a woman that doesn't really like have a heart. Like I always have like heart on my sleeve, like with all the characters that I play. So it's like very outside of my comfort zone.
Mhm.
Um, but I loved being a part of that story. Oh my gosh. And the children, like I was also like, I don't have kids and I haven't really worked with kids a lot in my life. So it's kind of like, oh, I had like trepidation about it, but I loved working with the kids.
Yeah.
Loved it.
It's interesting that you brought up the whole like, this is how I saw the character, because I remember I literally, when you started talking about Matilda, I was like, I'm going to ask Amy about what she said in this character study she did for Broadway.com about her process of this character. And you brought it up. And it's so funny you mentioned that too, because, when I've interviewed people, and this mostly like has to do with like Labute characters, because like a lot of his earlier work, they're like very narcissistic and they're very like a certain type. And when I interviewed Neil for the podcast, he was saying that people just find it hard to believe that people can just act that way.
Yeah.
And I agree. And I said to him, like, I agree with that, because there have been times in my life where I've come across people who I personally have been treated by very terribly. And I feel like they just don't have a heart and they're horrible human beings. So
Yeah,
there's,
they exist,
they,
they totally exist. But
yeah.
yeah, so but I had to figure that out for myself, like how to play a bully.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, and sadly, I did not see you in it, but I'm sure you did it very, very well, because you're Amy Spanger. You knew that.
Ah.
But I also just want to backtrack, because I thought it was very interesting how you mentioned Stephen Schwartz and Wicked, because you did a workshop of Wicked as Nessa Rose. And there is actually audio on some Instagram page of like a bunch of different alphabas. And then, like, in the midst of it is like a recording of you in the workshop as Nessa Rose.
Really?
Yeah, if I find it, I'll send it to you. But
Okay.
how did that come into your life? At like what point were you workshopped into as Nessa?
Yeah, well, I worked with Stephen Aremus on Tick Tick Boom, and they started doing like readings of that like shortly after Tick Tick Boom happened. I was living in LA for a little bit, and they did a reading out there, and I think Adina was out there too, because I think Tay was like filming something. They were together, she and her ex-husband, and I had an ex-husband that I was living with out there too. So, uh, yeah, I think like the Stephen Aremus connection, but this is a cool story. So we were in LA, and Ben Platt's father, Mark Platt, is like a Broadway producer and like a film producer, and he was producing that reading, and so he had like a party at his house, and like Kristen Chenoweth was there, and Adina Menzel, and they were like, Amy, sing "Come to Your Senses" with Stephen Aremus at the piano, whatever. So I did, and so years later, cut to like years later when I'm on the same block as Book of Mormon doing Chicago and I meet Ben Platt on the street, like before, this is before like he was in, um,
Evan Hand. Well, he made his Broadway debut in Book of Mormon,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah.
So I met him like through a friend, like on the street, and he was like, I know who you are because you sang Come to Your Senses in my living room and you changed my life. I was like, what? He was
See,
like that.
another
That
deep
was like
cut of
I
fans. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, that was kind of like my um but yeah, we did readings of it, yeah, and then we did the lab of it.
Mhm.
And there was a number in that for a while called Step by Step by Step, where Nissa Rose would get out of the wheelchair and do like a big dance number that they ended up cutting.
Yeah. If you think about what the show is now, and then you just think about Nessa having a huge dance number, it doesn't really fit. But, I think
Well, they kept saying to me, they were like, we're going to make the character bigger. And I was like, no, you're not. You're
yeah,
really not. And it's like, not with those two ladies over there. No.
yeah, yeah. I can't, it's 20 years this year on Broadway. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah. I never saw the original cast. My high school, they would always go see a Broadway show and they were supposed to see something and it didn't work out. So they went to see Wicked and I was like, I'm not gonna go. And then they saw the original cast. But my Alphaba and Glinda was Shoshana Bean and Megan Hilty. And that's when Megan Hilty was the understudy for Jenna Lee Thompson, who you replaced in Urinetown, right?
Jennifer Laura Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I got the name wrong.
It's
Again,
okay.
brain farts. Yeah. So that's just funny. So how did you just not go on with Wicked? Were you doing something else? Like what happened there?
No, they offered it to me and I did not take it. And it was at a moment in my life where I was like, I feel like I'm gonna be bored sitting in a wheelchair and listening to those women sing their faces off. So it was like a choice I made. Maybe not the best choice, but it was a choice.
Listen, Norbert Leo Butz found love
I
because that
know.
happened. So,
I know. I could be married to him now.
exactly.
You know? It could have been
They didn't
me.
even name their first child after you. What a shame. I'm just joking.
I'm kidding. Sorry, my computer's about to die.
Oh no, it's totally fine. Don't worry about it. So you also do a lot of cabarets. Do you want to talk about the creation of those? What made you just decide to do the cabarets? Do you have any coming up anytime soon that you're working on?
I'm not doing them at the moment. I did like a year and a half. I did like four in a year and a half, and I was kind of like, okay, and now I'm done for a while. Um, no, they've been great. They've been really wonderful. It's an opportunity to like be creative and sing in front of people and have like my friends come and sing with me, and
Yeah.
my husband Brian has done like all of them with me, and um, yeah, it's been like really like a wonderful thing. We did one at Birdland that was sold out, and it was great.
Right. And
They've
that
been great.
your next one, you're going to do that Valley of the Doll song.
I don't know how that will go over, but
You listen, you have the gays there, they'll love it. I was gonna ask a question. I can't, so how did, because you just not too long ago, you also did a regional production of The Prom,
yeah,
which I will say, like, and I always tell the story when I saw The Prom on Broadway, I was so enraged what happened at the end of the first act because I felt so bad. Like, I was so mad that that happened to the character. I
yeah.
literally just sat there with my arms crossed, like, I'm not plotting. I'm so mad. Like, and
Awful, right?
yeah, and it wasn't anything against the show because the show was so brilliant and it was great. I was just so upset for the character that I just sat there with my arms crossed. I'm like, I'm not applauding for this. I'm so mad. But
Yeah, it was met with that kind of reaction
yeah,
at our theater too. Yeah. Yeah, I saw it and I loved it. It wasn't until like I worked on it like from the inside that I really like got it. It's such a brilliant show. It's so
yeah,
brilliant. Oh man. I feel like it happened at like the wrong time for the show. Like if it were happening now, I feel like it would
Yeah.
have more of a life, I think, you
Yeah.
know. Like I ran to Angie Schwartz while I was doing the show. I had to like run into New York and do an audition. I saw her at the audition and she was like, "Who's playing my part?" I was like, because like she has ownership over it because it was cut so short, you know?
And I feel like wasn't it also created for her?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. The character's name is Angie. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
written for her.
Yeah, I love her line, and they didn't do it in an adaptation for a streaming service, but I loved her line, like, "How old do you fucking think I am?" Oh, it was brilliant. How old do you fucking think I am? Oh man, that show is just so great. But no, that's interesting too, because there's like a lot of shows too that was like kind of before its time and like it didn't have the run. And it's so funny too, because I wasn't like one of those like crazy Spring Awakening fans who would like be on the chat boards and all that. Like I was a person who would like wake up at 3 in the morning and go to the theater to like wait to get a ticket, you know, because when you're in college and you're that age, you can do that. Um, but, you know, I was talking to people now about it. And it's like if Spring Awakening were to come out now, it wouldn't be as groundbreaking as it was back then. And there's also so many shows that had such a short life on Broadway, but they have such a huge life regionally.
Yeah,
Oh, and
yeah,
like the prom is one of them.
totally, totally.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I didn't know either that the character had such a like vulnerable journey. Like the character Dee Dee that I
Yeah.
played. Um, yeah, and like the her finding love, you know, it's just really sweet. Like really just so sweet. Um, but yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for me. It was really great.
So you also teach as well.
Hmm.
How can, if anybody does want to work with you, how can they get in touch with you or reach out to work with you?
Yeah, they can get in touch with me through my website, amyspanger.com, or they can like DM me on Instagram if they want, um, or they can reach out on amyspanger@gmail.com.
Ooh. Yeah. You also like, I'm curious, so when you do teach, what are the things that you teach as well? Have you also taught like any dance classes? Because you have this huge Fosse background, and I'm sure that people would love to work with someone who has worked with people who have worked directly with Bob Fosse.
Yeah.
If that like that
Yeah.
chain of Fosse.
Um, I have taught dance like a lot in my like I do like master classes, you know, like um yeah, I don't do like I don't teach dance like as much as I teach, you know, musical theater or, you know, coach. Do like acting through song coaching. Um, but yeah, I teach everything. Whatever you want me to teach, I'll teach.
How to be a nice human. No, so because you mentioned the whole like you tell people like be nice regardless. What would you say is like another top thing that because every student is different, so they'll need to, you know, everything's individualized. But what do you think is like the overall thing that you teach that you would want people to get out of a session with you?
Yeah. Um, there's no one like you
Mhm.
on earth. Like there's no one exactly like you.
Mhm.
So like figure out who you are, like what makes you weird or unique or what makes people like maybe make fun of you or you know like um and capitalize on that, you
Mhm.
know. Um but like there's no one like you. So um Joseph Campbell um wrote this and it's like something that I live by, but like yeah, there's no one like you.
Yeah.
So that's like the greatest gift that you can give in your life. It's like to be exactly who you are.
Yeah. I also love there's a quote, well, like when Facebook had you can put quotes on Facebook. And one of them I had was from Laura Linney, and it was like, nobody is ever one thing. So don't like let that stop you, which I think is also true. Uh,
Yeah.
so do you have any like top going theater experiences that you would like
Yeah.
to share?
Um, the 1998 production of Cabaret with Alan Cumming. It's like the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
You see it with Natasha Richardson?
No, I saw it with Susan Egan.
Oh my God, I love her so much. One of
Yeah.
my dreams is just, well, aside from seeing Harry Styles sing Medicine live, I love is to see Susan Egan sing oh my God, what's that song? I Won't Say I'm in Love live. I just want to see her sing it live. Like I don't have to go to a Disney Princess concert. Like I just want to see her perform it live. It's like one of my dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that can happen.
I hope I think it can too. I just have to wait for like the opportune moment. Just like her on a stage with the piano singing it. It'll be great. So do you have any is that the only like theater going experience that like or is there anything else?
Changed my life.
Not
Um,
necessarily changed your life, but just like, I always talk about like seeing the ferryman and um brief encounter. I'm just like rambling mine once. I always talk about once. Um next fall. There's seeing like Beth Level and like Danny Burstein and Drowsy Chaperone.
yeah, they
Yeah,
were incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, I like Sally Bowles has always been like the thing that,
Mhm.
the one that got away kind of for me because I feel like I may have aged out. Um, but yeah, that role and that show, like, oof, yeah, that's like stayed with me and stayed with me.
So aside from Sally Bowles, is there any other like dream roles or projects you would want to work on? Maybe like a production of Next to Normal and finally make that happen.
You know, it's funny about Next to Normal. My mother had bipolar,
Hmm.
so like when I was like working on it, I was like, I don't get why I'm like so good at this character. Like, how am I connecting with her? And I was like, oh, it's that thing where it's so close to home that you like don't realize it. Um, I think I don't really need to do that with my life. Do you know what I mean? I worked on it a lot. I'd like wrung myself out, emotionally about it. And I feel like I really like when they were nominated for a Tony, when Alice was nominated for Tony, like Tom sent me the nicest note, Tom Kitt. And he was like, you know, your voice has been like ringing in our ears and like you are such a creative force. I want you to know that like you helped us achieve this. I wasn't standing on the stage like accepting the award, but like I feel that like I was creatively involved like quite a bit.
Especially when they won the Pulitzer. So I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Um, and like I've done concerts over the years with them. Like I'm always kind of like included, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And yeah, I mean if it came up it would be really cool, but it's not
Yeah.
something that I'm like reaching for. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
Um, but Audra in Little Shop of Horrors is kind of like, come on, people.
Yeah.
And um I feel like now that ship may have sailed as well.
I think so. I
Because
mean,
but I
Tammy
think
Faber did it, and she was older than the
yeah,
gentleman who played Seymour. So,
yeah,
like, why not?
totally. No, but I think they are doing like a person of color like in that role now too. I think I think that's what I mean by ship may have sailed. Um, but yeah, like the witch in Into the Woods, or the baker's wife in Into the Woods, or Mrs. Lovett. Um, yeah, those are the main ones.
Would you ever go back to Chicago if they asked you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I've done it 9 times.
Well, like you should make it an even 10 at this point. Wait,
Yeah.
should we let Dan Block and have a break? Bring in Amy Spanger so she can have her like 10th round of Chicago.
No, but like of all the roles, like that's one of the best ones ever for like a triple threat
Yeah.
human, who's like funny.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's like the best. And like Candor and Ebb and Fosse and like all of the elements are, mwah, chef's kiss.
So, as we are coming towards the end of this podcast, I sometimes forget to ask this question, but I will ask you, why do you think theater is important?
It helps people heal. Yeah. It helps people heal their wounds and it helps them escape and it helps them learn
Mhm.
and it helps them feel better.
Now, as we come to the end, is there anything you'd like to add? Problems, questions, concerns, life advice for people listening?
Um, Not really.
Even better. Well, I mean, you could stay on when I end this, but thank you so much for coming on. It was so
Thanks
lovely.
for having me.
Of course. It was so like I loved hearing like all the inside information about like all of these things that you worked on. I love like behind the scenes stuff. So that to me is just so interesting. And thank you for again indulging me with my wedding singer nerdness because when we first worked together and I geeked out so hard on the wedding singer, you were so nice about it.
I love The Wedding Singer. Anytime you want to geek out about it, like
Oh,
geek
I'll
out.
tell you what, when like we hang out, I'll just wear my wedding singer t-shirt and I'll be like, she was in it. Like she, no, I won't do that. I promise.
Oh my
Well, thank
God.
you so much for coming on and thank you for those listening and have a good one.
Bye.